following a photographer on Instagram that's been doing drone shots around Milwaukee. And I noticed the other day that he was posting some pictures of the parade that they had for the Milwaukee Bucks in downtown yesterday or the day before. And I was kind of wondering, I see some of his pictures posted that I'm questioning the legality of it. A lot of me flies out over the lake and shoots back towards the city. And I'm wondering if he's getting special permission for those pictures.
It's possible. So you can request, if you're a 107 holder, you can request waivers to fly over people, but your drone has to be equipped with some special equipment, like a little parachute or something that's going to mitigate if that drone all of a sudden had a malfunction. Something that's going to mitigate it if it does fall into a crowd to keep people from getting hurt.
Yeah, that might alone be worth going through the trouble of getting the 107 certificate.
Yeah, so like I said, I'd be happy to spend some time one evening talking to you about it, and we can look at some of the options for you.
Okay, I'll email you.
All right.
Okay, we're going to get started here. Welcome everybody to the Digital Forum for July. Looks like we got a fair amount of people here, 28 actually. I'm in here twice. Anybody that wants to join the panel, please raise your Zoom hand and we'll give you one last shot to join the panel. Okay, got a couple of you here. All right. So for everybody, before we got started, Gemma and Marty were talking about drone photography and all that's involved. We'll probably, one of these days, Marty, maybe we'll do a second hour and you can just talk about drone stuff, because I bet a lot of people are interested in it.
Sure. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's see. I didn't bring up my Q&A. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring up today as we get started here? I got a couple things set in reserve just in case. Geez, quiet group this morning.
What's on the agenda today?
I'm going to talk about two items to help you process images quicker. One is a Wacom tablet, and the other is the Stream Deck made by Elgato. They're two items that can help speed up how you can help you process your images faster. So that'll be on the second hour. One of the things that came up this last week, and Kathy Brand is going to let me share it. She had her hard drives crash. And first, her backup one crashed, I believe it was a few months ago, and she didn't get to replacing it right away. And then her main one crashed. And it's wanted to just remind everybody that backup is so important. Kathy got lucky and she found a third backup where she has most of her stuff. And I tried to salvage what was on her two drives that had crashed, but they crashed so bad that there was no way to recover anything other than if we would send them in to like Drive Savers and spend probably close to $2,000 to $3,000 to recover the images, which I don't think, since Kathy has found most of them, I don't believe she's going to want to do that. But she got fortunate. She had a third backup on some stuff on 2 little portable drives that she's going to use to be able to restore most of it. So just a reminder, back everything up 2 or 3 times. I have 2 backups here. I back up to the cloud using Backblaze. And I back up on a third set that sits at home just in case. So just a reminder, as this seems to pop up a couple times a year, backup is important.
Speaking of Backblaze, I just got an email here, Jeff, that says it's missing one of my drives because my main iMac, that went down a few weeks ago. So I got a M1 on order. And and that was the one that I was backing up through Backblaze. So it just sent me a notice that 2 weeks ago it stopped seeing it. Yep.
Usually you can point it to it again and it'll catch it. But yeah, I went through that when my computer crashed too. And it's always fun. Every now and then I get that notice. And it's nice to know that it's not backing up.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'll have a full report on the M1 probably by the August meeting.
Yeah, I'll be curious to hear. I'm using as a second computer here one of the Mac Mini M1s, and it's only 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 of a hard drive. But I gotta say, the thing flies. It just cranks along, and it was a $600 computer that I was able to get at Costco. So I haven't tried Photoshop and all that on it yet, but everything else that I'm using on it, it works as good as my $2,500 laptop. Or actually, this laptop is over $3,000. So
same on before,
yeah.
I see.
So
Tim Cole's got a question. He's got his hand raised.
yeah, Herbert, did you have a question, or you just raised it to join the group?
You're muted there.
You got to figure out how to unmute. It looks like you're on your iPhone today.
I am.
And I don't know where the unmute is on your on a phone or an iPad.
There it is. There I got it.
There we go.
Yeah, I would just raise my hand to be part of the panel. I didn't know if.
Okay. Yep, you're in. You're in.
This
You're
is the
good.
first time I've used an iPhone on a Zoom meeting, so.
Yeah, it works pretty well.
Seems to.
Yeah, it's a matter of where you place it. That's probably the biggest trick of all this stuff. But
You guys were talking about Zoom drones earlier. There's a gentleman you might know him. His name is Dan Anderson out of Door County.
Oh yeah.
Oh sure.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of drone stuff. And I was up there. I spent 4 days with him a couple of weeks ago up there, and he had his drone up. There was a big storm coming through, and he got some fantastic shots out there.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, he's quite a landscape photographer, anyways. And of course, with the drone, he says he just loves it because he's able to get angles he never did before.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping to get.
so if
Yeah.
you want to see some really neat stills, it's Dan Anderson Photography out of Door County.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be cool. I one of the pictures that I took in Utah, I got published right away. That I took with the drone of one of the buttes in Utah. I got published in
Yeah.
Landscape Photography magazine coming up in the next few months. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
kind of impressed with the drone photography.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun stuff. Yeah. I see Tony's got his stand up.
What?
I see Tony's got his
Tony,
hand
did
up.
you have something you wanted to add?
I just wondered if this I joined a little late. I wonder if this started out with the 1,800 drones at the Tokyo opening ceremonies.
No.
No, the conversation didn't say that, but
Okay, well, they had above the stadium, they had 1,800 drones that made a big circle in the sky of about 9 drones each. And then they all shifted to make the world and outline of the continents and stuff.
Wow.
And it was absolutely thrilling to watch.
I'll have to go back and watch that. I know when it was one of the stars that did drones over the stadium during one of the Super Bowl last year. And they said that they actually couldn't, in the United States, they couldn't fly over stadiums, and even for the Super Bowl. And so they ended up shooting that not live. They had shot it before. So in Japan, they probably, with the Olympics, I'm sure it was live though.
Yeah.
I'll have to go
Yeah,
back.
I haven't watched any of that stuff, so.
Can I ask just a basic question here? And
Sure, Mark, go ahead.
For processing, just curious what people use locally and or distance as far as an online vendor if they want, prints or canvas prints. And I'm just curious what people use and any thoughts on that. I don't know if you do that kind of recommendations, but.
Oh, sure. I actually use Bay Photo there in California.
Me too.
They do a really good job. They're reasonably priced. So, and they can do canvas, metal prints, the whole works.
I had a picture printed, they printed on metal that I wasn't as happy with. I had been using a local printer in San Diego, and then when I moved, I sent one to Bay Photo, but I have another one lined up. I'm going to try them again.
Well, if you're not happy with it, all you have to do is tell them, and they'll redo it. They're very good about that, especially if it's off color or something like that, or
I wasn't unhappy with it. I just thought that the printer that I had used before was better. And so, yeah, I will approach them on it. But do they have what I used to do when I used to print at Costco back in the early days? I downloaded the color profile for their printer. And I'm wondering if you can do that with Bay Photo or.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it's at in Bay Photo, but I think if you search for it, it's there.
You can color match to their monitors, so they do have a process for that. So you might just want to call their customer service asking about it. But I tell you myself, I just use lab color and let them pick the color, and I always get phenomenal images back instead of me picking it and them printing to my specs.
Yeah, I was a member of a print club in San Diego that the whole competition or the critiques were on prints. And so a lot of the people were learning how to print. And I had to learn all about how to set that up in Photoshop and proof them and stuff. A lot of people at that time were new photographers, new to printing rather, were using Costco. And I think Costco recently stopped their print service. Is that true?
That is true.
Yeah.
I went from there printing my own, so I have a big printer. But if I have things like printing on metal, I still have to send them out.
So I'll just mention this about the printing on the metal. So the Chromolux process is a patented process. So Bay Photo uses it, American Color uses it, Miller Labs uses it. It's all the same process, no matter who's doing it, because it's a patented process. So the results you get shouldn't vary a whole lot lab to lab because of that.
Yep. So trying to figure out why. Okay, that's maybe why. Okay. Yeah, and I just stopped printing all my own stuff, and I'm sending now everything to Bay Photo because I just don't print enough that my big printers, the heads were getting clogged so bad because it'd be 2-3 weeks between printing, and by the time I unclogged the heads, I could have paid for the print about 6 times. And
what kind of a printer do you have? I have an Epson, and I'm concerned about that, but I haven't had a problem.
Yeah, I have an Epson. Actually, it's a pretty old Epson 7600. It's a 24-inch printer. And I have an Epson 3800, which is their desktop printer. And both of them now, when I need to use them, I have to run about 5 cleaning cycles to get the heads to work again, because right now I haven't printed in probably 6-8 weeks. And the smart thing to do is if you have a printer, you should turn it on and run it through a cycle every week or so to
I've done
keep
several
the
months. I was
heads
actually,
clean.
I was actually kind of surprised. Only once after going 2 or 3 months, I had to clean the heads a couple of times, and I've been 3 or 4 months now, so I should probably do it. But I
Yeah.
might be clogged, and the full set of ink costs about $500 for that printer. So using it to
Right.
clean is expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what 2400 is. So, I mean, they're 220 milliliter cartridges, and there's 9 of them. Actually, if I use the 110 milliliter, those are only $80 a piece, and then there's 9 of them. So, 3800 is like $50 a piece for the 8 or 9. So
You have to, I mean, if you're going to be printing at home, you've got, or as a small studio, you got to be doing a lot of printing to make it pay for itself versus sending stuff out to these labs. It's a time-consuming thing, and it's a very expensive process. You know, labs like Bay Photo or Miller's, ACI, any of them can do a much more economical job printing for you than you can ever do at home.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know what? When I did it and I was learning for the club, I learned a lot by doing it, and
Well,
that I
absolutely.
learned.
Yeah.
It was an expensive learning,
Yeah.
but you know.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, there's something said for that. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it definitely helps to make sure that your screen is color calibrated for doing
To
all
your
this
printer.
stuff.
Yeah. To your
Yeah,
printer.
and to
Yeah.
your printer,
Yeah.
or to the lab, so that when you send it to the lab, it should be sent out as sRGB and not any of the other color profile settings.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, if the
'cause-
sRGB doesn't have as wide of a gamut, so if you send it out with Adobe RGB, I would think you'd get back.
No.
no, all the printers print at sRGB.
Yep.
All the print houses.
The latest printers are printing Adobe RGB.
Well, I check with them. Bay Photo still suggests sending it as sRGB.
Okay.
So it's one that if you you need to check with each lab, but most of the labs, depending on what you're having printed, it can change. For color prints on regular photo paper, that would need to be sRGB because all those printers are set up that way. Metal prints might be Adobe RGB. It depends. You got to check with the lab, of course. And some of the other, if they're printing on inkjet printers, then you might be able to get away with Adobe RGB. But again, check with the lab to make sure what they want from you. Generally, most of them are going to tell you sRGB.
Okay.
And one other lab just to mention that's right here in Germantown, Wisconsin is Allied Digital Photo. They can print stuff up to 40 some inches wide. And they've got inkjet and they can print on photo paper as well. And they have very reasonable prices. So that is one place.
Do they do metal?
No, they don't do metal. They send it out. So if you're gonna want metal, I would go with Bay Photo or one of the other metal print companies. Kathy, did you have something?
I have a question. I had some prints made for an exhibit recently, and I've always used Nation Photo Labs on the East Coast. I want to say Maryland or Delaware, somewhere in that area. But I always would send them JPEGs, and I could have sent them by TIFFs, and I was wondering, then it would take a lot longer to get across. I was wondering what other people do.
High quality JPEG would be fine. Because they're not going to manipulate the image, they're just printing from it. So a full quality JPEG, the highest quality you make, will work out just fine. That's what I send Bay Photo.
Well, I was happy with what they did. And they have an option where for a couple of dollars extra for each print, they will color enhance or correct. I don't know what the terminology is, but they
Right.
will look at it. And I always give them that option. I pay extra for that because I figure they're doing printing every day of the week. And they know more than I know about printing. And
No,
I've always been happy with what they
I
do.
never do that because I don't want them to change how I see the picture on my monitor. But then I've gone through the calibration, the monitor calibration and everything. So I kind of know what to expect. And it's a matter of judgment when they do the adjustments like that.
Yeah. I actually, let's see, I'm trying to remember what I've done the last couple times. Last few times I have them don't do correction because I know my color monitors are pretty good, but generally Bay Photo's even done a pretty good job at looking at it to make sure that it came through the way it needs to be. But
Well, I think next
And
time I'll
there's-
try it both ways and just see what the difference
Yeah.
is.
Good idea.
yeah, and there's sometimes you can do tests, and Bay Photo's great. They'll send you samples of metal prints so you can see all the different finishes. There's a lot of stuff that they'll do for you, and doesn't cost a whole lot of money. And they do a nice job because, yeah, printing it yourself, that ink gets expensive, especially if they're small cartridges. Anything else? I'm just looking through the chat and not much is popping up there. No questions from the group. Hey, is the group out there awake? Panel's doing pretty well, but you guys out there need to send us some questions. Otherwise, we'll be muttering along. Yeah, just put your...
I see Steve
Steven-
Youngworth's he's got his hand up. So
Yeah, do you want to join the panel, Steve? Here, I'll bring you in. We're a loose group today. It's summertime. So, Steve, go ahead and ask your question. I think you had sent me something that we were talking online. If you can.
No, I apologize. I did not mean to raise my hand.
Oh, okay. Well, we were talking online, weren't we?
Yeah, I had sent you a question.
Yeah, why don't you, let's talk about that. But I don't have it in front of me. Can you remind me what it was?
Sure. So I was taking pictures at an outdoor play and it was kind of dark and under trees. And the quality of the focus, was concerning me. And it was a new Canon R5.
Right.
So I was playing with the focus and trying to figure out, at what point is it worth sending the camera back to Canon to look at, or the lens, or is it really just that I was zooming in too much on Lightroom and maybe pixel peeping and overdoing it? And so I was actually curious how people assess the quality of focus, and at what point would you consider sending a relatively new camera to be checked?
Yeah, and I suggest one suggestion, a simple and inexpensive one, is to photograph a piece of newspaper on a wall from a reasonable distance away and see if it keeps focusing right that way.
I have go ahead, Jeffrey, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can pick up pretty cheaply one of those plastic, what do they call them? Focal points that has like a ruler on it. And you can set that somewhere and focus on the different parts of it. And then you can check where the focus is, if it's on the 0 point or if it's plus or minus.
Yeah.
You can actually go into your Canon camera and calibrate and set the focus to where it needs to be yourself without an expensive, sending it in.
Yeah, I did try kind of taking pictures of newspaper yesterday, and it was a good learning experience because I could see how the sharpness varied with the f-stop I was using and also the center versus the edges. But overall, I kind of convinced myself that the camera was working fine, and my issues that other night were probably, as they say, pilot error.
Yeah, but it can be when you get in doubt, and to even check, because sometimes these cameras is this a mirrorless camera?
Yeah.
I could, yeah. They have less problems with back focus, I believe, than mirrored cameras because of the way they focus. So, but it can be handy. I sent you 2 different focus items that work. I use one from a company that I don't even know if they're still around anymore, but it has a 3-foot ruler and I can focus right on the center and tell whether the camera's back focusing or front focusing a little bit. But it's so minor that I used to spend hours trying to get that done, and I don't do it as much anymore. Yeah, German just put in the chat, and that's the one that I sent him. That was the inexpensive one. Then I sent him a more expensive one too.
I was surprised when I was looking at it, that was $25, I think, just for a plastic, $35.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of them were
And that's not too bad for checking your zoom or checking your focus.
Stephen, is it a telephoto or what? I found the wide angle are kind of hard to use these devices to do that. Telephoto, you can get in closer to it and check it a little bit easier, but the wide angle, it makes it harder to see the little target when you're a ways away.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, telephotos with the short depth of field help.
Assume you're doing this on a tripod and not handheld.
Yeah, no, I did it in bright light and with it. Well, actually, the night I was having issues, it was handheld and it was dark and drizzly and it was bad conditions. But when I tried the newsprint, I did that mounted on a tripod in bright light, and I was really happy with the quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
That's the cheapest way to do it. It's an old way, but throwing a newsprint up, if you can see that works out real well.
Right.
But Drama has the.
I haven't even used it yet, but I ordered it.
Yeah.
Haven't used it, but you hook it up to your camera and your laptop and use it to check the focus of your camera. I was just searching for the cost of it. It wasn't cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even remember the name of the one. Steve, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to add to what you guys are talking about. I just spent a couple of days calibrating my Tamron 150 to 600. I've been struggling with it ever since I bought it, and it was like hit and miss. And what I found out is when I was shooting some loons on a lake, I could see the water in front of the loons, because I was pretty flat on the lake, was in focus several feet in front of the loons. And that was my problem. But I know on Tamron, you can actually calibrate the lens to the camera. And yes, the wider angles on that little small target, that don't work. I used a big box that was for my new office chair, and I use that and a yardstick. And even with the yardstick, the depth of field becomes so large that it's not really useless, but it can tell you if you're still in front or still in back.
Right. Yeah, and the one that I have, and I can't, my mind's blank on it. My focus thing is over 3 feet long, so it's made for telephoto lenses, and it works really well. This guy was one of the first people to have this, and now everybody sort of has the same type targets available. But you need to do it with the lens wide open and that. And a lot of times it's where the camera picks the focus too. So that's the other thing that you have to watch out for, because it's so easy if you use group focus or something that it picks in front of it instead of behind.
That's why a nice big box gives you a nice big target. And even if I was shooting at 150 at the Infinity. Trying to find Infinity is kind of a challenge.
Yeah, that part doesn't work too well.
I did it along my road here in front of my house, and the first day I did it was nice and cloudy, and I got some decent images. The first set of images I tested afterwards, the next day when it was sunny, the heat distortion was incredible.
Oh yeah, yeah. Depending on these higher megapixel cameras, my D850 and my Z7 II, when I'm shooting at the racetrack, I can see all the heat signatures coming off the track, and it's just amazing watching that stuff flutter. But yeah, it can be handy to, you know, make sure that stuff is in focus and that the camera's working right, because it could be the lens, it can be the camera sometimes, or a combination of both. I've got one lens that I can't get to focus at all, and I've sent it back to Nikon 3 times, and I just don't use it on certain cameras because it just won't work on them. So you never know. But then I got to admit, it was a lens that I had dropped and it broke in half, and I sent it in for repair. Nikon fixed it, and they keep telling me it's in focus, but I keep telling them, not with this camera or this camera, with this third camera, it works fine. So you just never know. So thanks, Steve, for asking that question. That lets everybody know. I'd forgotten about that you had asked it. I can't remember. I get so many emails some days that it's hard to remember. Thinking of emails, we had Ron Wolfel had a problem with the people thing in Lightroom. Let me set this up and I can show everybody what it looks like that he had a problem with. And unfortunately, I have not been able to come up with a solution for him. But
After last month's meeting, and we talked about that, I spent the entire day playing with that on Lightroom, and it's a good tool, but it's very temperamental.
Yep. It works at times and it doesn't work at times. And here's where his problem is that it's going in front of other names. So you got a bunch of them. And I noticed the same thing when I got groups. The only way around it that I found is that if you click on like this person's name here, then that pops up in front, and if you click on the other one, sometimes the back one will pop up. But I couldn't find a way, and I searched online, I searched with Adobe. I didn't get a chance to talk to Adobe. So if anybody ever figures out how you can get the names, because he's got a couple here, and it does work well.
You can zoom in and actually move the squares around a little bit, like that one right there. You see the guy is overlapping with the girl, and if
right.
I think if you zoom in, you can actually pick up one of those corners and change it to where it doesn't overlap. I think that was his original question.
Yeah, well, he was, I think, worried more about, let's see,
The names overlapping.
Where the names over, like this name overlap this name, and I
If you
think
move that
that if
square, though, I think it'll put the name in a different place.
I believe if you do that, and I don't have a group one that I can show that's live, and these are still shots that he sent us. So so that was the only thing. Yeah, if you click on the box, it should pop the name out front. But yeah, it'd be nice if you could move some of the names around so that they could like go down here. Might be something to send into Adobe and see if that would be something when they update that. Because with large groups of people, it does get to be a problem. But it's amazing. It does an all right job. It does chew up a lot of processing power when it's running. So you do have to watch that.
I noticed, one thing I noticed, and I work with keywords a lot, is that each of those is a keyword. And if there's, at one time it puts a little, whether you put a checkbox or no, this is not this person. If it has the wrong name on there and you click on the no, that is not this person, it actually
Yeah.
deletes that keyword. And every time you've identified that person previously, that's gone. Yeah, there, when you run your cursor over it, you see over the names.
Yeah,
You see the
yeah.
little no there. So I learned
Yeah,
very
like-
quickly not to use that because it can
Oh,
do the algorithm and recalculate everyone with that had that name
yeah,
and possibly.
yeah. And I don't have these models' names, so unfortunately, I keep meaning to look it up because I have those in files. But I love when it picks out something that's nothing, and then if you click on it, it will make it give
Another
you
thing
an
you
X
can do
that you
is-
can make go away.
I think if you double click on the picture, it'll go to that picture and you can see, then adjust the square or remove the square for when it picks
Right.
up leaves like that. Yeah, you see there's
But
one there.
See here, it's picked up two. I don't know why it would think this was somebody else.
If you click on
'Cause
that
there's-
square with the leaves, you can then delete that.
Yeah, I think there's an X right there to delete it. And then I can name
Adjust that
this model here. Unfortunately, I don't have that model name, so, but yeah, it's handy. It's something that I'm going to keep working on with all of my stuff. Because once it figures out who the person is, it works a little better. It works all right, but some days it's amazing what it can do. I'm just not sure how much I'm going to use it myself, so I tend to turn it off because I have a lot of images. Like here, there's 588, but I gotta admit, I got through about 500 people on my very personal stuff in a relatively short time, because it started grouping them together as it figured out who it was. It went out pretty well.
I was
my
doing
problem-
family, so it was surprising how family members, it seemed to find the likenesses and
Yep.
make mistakes on who the person was when someone looked like someone else.
Yeah, and even going to young people, as you get younger as a little kid and picking out the adult, it's really did a pretty good job with it. It was sort of funny watching it. So it can be handy. Like here, I'll have to start doing this one because this is a camera club shot. So I'm going to start labeling all these guys. Some of these, Ken Cena here and Richard Nesbitt and some of the others. My problem is sometimes I don't remember who they are, although I think I have the name on the picture. But yeah, all you have to do is type the name in, and then they know. And then as soon as you start to type, it will guess what the name may be. So it can go fairly quickly. And actually, if you select a whole bunch, like here and here, and type the name in, so you can actually go pretty quick. Geez, Tony, is that you? Sort of looks like Tony Shoeless. And then there's Ken, Clint. So it works pretty well. It just takes some time to go through all this stuff. And I'm planning to do it when I can find some free time. But yeah, I'll never get the why it tries to pick people out this way. That seems to be a little weird, but yeah, and that is Tony there.
Part of that pattern might look like eyes and mouth. In fact, the ones little squares, if you look at them close, they could look kind of like a face.
Yeah. So it's funny what it can sometimes pick out as. And then once you get them up here, you can, if you find them, you can just drag them up to to that area. I do, Richard. So it's a handy thing. Yeah, and I believe it gives you the keywords.
Yeah, I watched the keywords very carefully. I realized that I ended up with some duplicates when I used the first name, and then I used on another picture, I used the last name, and it puts it as two different people. So
yeah, like here, I got Allison, and let's see, that would be, okay, so that's Allison. All right. Now I know who that is. See, I keyworded her, but I didn't know who she was. So now I can add her name.
yeah, I wish they would let you. I had a little bit of trouble with the subcategories on putting them under different families, because like I said, I was doing my old genealogy pictures and stuff, and I wanted to categorize. So I ended up putting them in a different catalog just because I have so many keywords in my main catalog, and trying to group them a little bit. It was a bit of a task, but it does work really well. I was surprised.
Yeah, it's
a little buggy. I think that the Adobe people that worked on it, it was a first draft.
Yeah, they've had this for a while, and now it looks like I got two Allisons, so that's interesting. Did I spell one? Oh, one with two L's and one with one L. So, let's see, I think I can edit that.
But if you click on the arrow on the right side on the one you want to get rid of, and then add all of those to the other Allison, then you can delete. I mean, you can do it in the keywords itself rather than using the feature. So if you select all of those in that selection, and then click on the other Allison, you can delete the misspelled one. It looks like they're all in both, though. Yeah, that has 75 like and the other one has 69. So all of that 69 are in the 75.
So I can just delete this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could spell it, life would be better.
Yeah, I found that a little.
In the refrigerator. She probably should go walk. It was 6:30 when we went.
Who's that? Somebody say something? Okay.
Someone had their microphone on. I was going to say, even a little difference in the spelling, like you said, Allison and Allison, tripped me up a few times.
Yep. I just can't spell. So, but yeah, it's a handy little thing. So, but it does take time, and I will warn people that I would turn it off and only have it sort of run when you're using it and want it, and turn it off when you're not, because it does slow the computer down quite a bit.
And it's
trying. Yeah. Because I started it on just my personal stuff, and my personal had something like 2,000 images in. And while it was doing that, I tried doing other stuff. And even with this new laptop, it took a while. So, but, oh well. And this new laptop has 32 gigabytes of RAM, and it still took everything it could to make it work. So, anybody else have any other questions? Boy, this is a quiet group today on a
I see Richard had his hand up. I don't know if he has a question.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
What I have a question on, Jeff, is I've seen the topic, especially doing a little bit of video lately, called an LUT. Is that specific just the video, or is it also applied to the camera world? And what's it used for?
Yeah, it's mainly video that it's been used for. We don't have as much use for it in still, other than in Lightroom in a develop module, the profiles that are in there that you can pick are actually camera LUTs. And that's a lookup table is what a LUT is. And you can create them in, I believe you can create them in Photoshop. It's easier to create them in a video program like Final Cut Pro and some of that. And it can give you a specific look. Yeah, Tony.
I have purchased On One, and
Okay.
every once in a while they offer free LUTs. When I got an email today that there are some, and they're
Right.
all for photos to give you a particular look.
Yeah.
And so I probably have a couple hundred of them now from On One. But you know, they don't do video on One, so they're for photos too.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you said, to give a particular look.
It came from video, and it's just starting, I think a year or two ago, you started seeing it when I believe Luminar uses it as well.
Luminar,
And-
and a lot of it comes out of what Instagram does, all the different looks that people are putting in Instagram, and a lot of that came from video. So that makes sense that it came out of video, but I use them quite a bit in Luminar.
Yeah. Do you remember, Marty,
Question.
can they create LUTs in Luminar?
I don't think in Luminar, but I think you can in On One, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So question, what's the difference between a LUT and a preset?
A preset, if you use a preset in, say, Lightroom, it's setting everything on the exposure, recovery, or whatever on that side. Let me.
I would say, Brian, though, to partly answer that question, I don't think a lot. And that's one of the things that Luminar kind of went away from doing their quote unquote presets. And now they have their looks, but the looks and LUTs are not much different. It's just that the LUTs are created specifically to use as a filter, so to speak. And they're all customizable. Once you apply it, you can go in and tweak it, much like you can presets. So not a lot of difference to them.
Right. But this is where the LUT is generally found in Lightroom, at least. It's under profile, and you have all these different, and I don't have a whole lot of them in here, but you can change it to the different color profiles, and whatever you set doesn't affect here, but now you can adjust what that LUT has done to, you can modify it using all the tools in here. So that a LUT, where a preset, if I go to the preset, say over here to black and white landscape, it's actually changing a bunch of stuff, although that one actually is a profile. So that's funny.
And see, Jeff, where you're kind of going down the road, because what I've seen is I'm seeing LUTs built for like specific drone manufacturers.
Right.
Okay, which to me I was kind of thinking is kind of like a camera lens correction. And then you also have, and I'm using Premiere Pro, it also has built-in preset LUTs like Lightroom to give you an effect. Because I'm shooting two different drones, and like one drone, they have some of their own LUTs created for it, but it's not giving me, the colors aren't right, so on and so forth. And the other one is a cheaper DJI, and I haven't found anything for that. So that kind of addresses, I think, what I was looking for, what it does.
Yeah.
You're
So
primarily using in video then, Rich?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been go ahead.
Yeah, so in video with Premiere or any of those programs, you can actually, if you adjust the one that's out of adjustment, you can then save that as a LUT. And that way you can make your own LUTs right in Premiere and then use that from then on. And that will speed up your processing of those images. So for that particular drone, if you create that special LUT, it will then correct that drone to the right color, or at least get it closer. You know, it's never going to be perfect, but and you should be able to just about match them up with a lot of work. But once you get it, then you'd have them both, you know, pretty close to color matching.
Okay.
And that's where LUTs originally came from, was video cameras don't pretty much put out one type of signal, and then if you put the LUT in the video editor, you can correct that signal and make it look better. And and that's about the only place I found that you can create a LUT is in like Premiere, Resolve by Blackmagic has Resolve that will let you create LUTs. I'm not sure if Final Cut Pro, I believe you probably could. I just haven't found it yet. And those are the three that I work with, so.
Yeah, because my one drone, I used one of the LUTs they gave me, and it actually made the picture look hideous compared to what I shot stock.
Yeah.
Everything was oversaturated, just over the top.
Right. So yeah, your best bet would be to take the stock one that's coming straight out of the camera, adjusting it to the point that you like it, and then save that as a LUT, that when you bring that film footage in for that camera, you just apply that LUT that you made. And it's pretty much like a preset, but it just gets everything there, and then you can tweak it, you know, that final amount that you may need to do. So, yeah, and now we're just starting to use those LUTs more, you know, in all the other programs, because all it is a lookup table with a set of colors coming in, and it's saying change them to this set of colors coming out. And it's what we do when we color calibrate our screen. It's basically creating a LUT.
You can correct me, but don't presets do more than just colors, and the LUT does just colors? Is that correct?
I would agree with that. I was just thinking about that. I mean, you know, you have presets that'll create borders, and you have presets that'll put textures on and things like that. So that's a good point, Grandma.
Yeah. It's really adjusting color, contrast, all of that type of stuff from the camera, because it's just adjusting the colors. It's a lookup table. It's just a conversion. So it's pretty much the same thing as when you color calibrate your monitor. It's creating a lookup table and telling the computer, says, okay, this is what red should look like. And so it has a better idea. So that's what a LUT would do. And it's funny that
there's an adjustment layer called color lookup, and then you can specify a LUT.
Yeah, what, in Photoshop?
Yeah, it's one of the adjustment layers.
Yeah, they're being used all over the place. I think if I hit browse, here you could see all sorts of different ones here. Here's they got black and white, they've got modern, they've got vintage. See, so if I go to the vintage ones, so these are all LUTs, and you can see they're just pretty much just changing colors. I usually just leave mine set up here to just I think I got my favorites right there. Usually, everybody should know by now. Where is mine? There's mine. Of course, Adobe Vivid, or for me, Nikon Camera Raw. It's the Vivid setting. So, but yeah, so those are LUTs. and they don't affect the stuff down here when you set it up in this point here.
Good discussion. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll just say in closing that with any LUT, everybody understands it better. So,
Oh dear. Okay. Anything else quick? Because I don't know how long mine's gonna take here as we get into it. But I suppose we can get started in it unless somebody has something else you'd like to ask quick while we're here. Boy, this is the longest I've never seen a question in the Q&A.
I'm still having a problem with my clone tool that I mentioned last month. I'm kind of concluding that it might actually be my Alt key on my keyboard. I should hook up another keyboard and test that theory, but I think when I press the Alt key, when I'm trying to set the clone source,
Yeah.
that the Alt key might not be working right.
So it's not setting, I can't remember, it's not setting the source, or?
Yeah, when I'm using the clone stamp tool and I go to change to a little different source, I have to hold the Alt key down and then count to 5. And even then, sometimes when I click on it to pick that point as the source, it puts a spot there from the old clone source instead of picking a new clone source. And so I'm wondering if it's my keyboard.
That, may not be the silliest thing. These keyboards only last so long, and they're just switches.
Yeah, it's an old keyboard.
Yeah, you might try, a different one. I'm using a bunch of cheap Logitech keyboards because I can't stand my laptop keyboard. So, and I think this keyboard was $20, but it works fine. But when it goes bad.
Dell keyboard that's one of the hard key kind from 10 or 15 years ago. And I don't like most of the new keyboards are the soft like you have on a laptop. And I don't like the flat keyboards.
Yeah, this one has more like the old typewriter keys. I actually have one on my other computer that actually has keys that are like that old keyboard. And I think that one was like a $100 gamer keyboard with the better switches in it. So yeah, if you spend more money, you can get that, because I like it where I actually hear the sound. You can hear it clicking.
Click. Yeah.
And it's nice, except for when I'm doing a Zoom meeting and all of a sudden I need to look something up and everybody can hear me type. So I've got a quiet keyboard here and I got my loud one over there. Because everybody doesn't want to hear it go click, click, click. But I actually like it because it's really like the old typewriter keys, and it's got that same push and feel. I don't like the flat keys that come on like a laptop. I don't have very good touch sensitivity on the tips of my fingers anymore. So I need something with a little bit bigger and more cup buttons that have an actual movement. And even those I still don't type well.
I think the young people like the newer keyboards. I think we're dating ourselves.
Yeah. Well, but you can get some really good keyboards and spend a lot of money on a keyboard. Some gamers do buy these more expensive. That's what that one that makes noise is a gamer's keyboard. And they like that tactile feel, I guess. So, but yeah, other people don't have problems with the other one. So I don't get it. But yeah, everybody has something they like. So
well, I'm going to test that, hook up a new keyboard. I'll let you know next month.
Yeah. My keyboard has an Alt key on both sides of the space bar. Have you tried using the other one?
No, actually, that's a good point. Mine does too. I'll try that.
Yeah, because maybe that one hardly ever gets used, so it's probably good.
Yeah,
I'll try it.
Yeah.
For
two-fingered typists can use almost any keyboards.
Yeah. I'm a full 10-finger typist. I learned in high school how to type. And that was the best thing. That's the best thing I ever learned was how to type.
Yeah.
And I've known how to do it for the longest time. And what helped me was I also played piano, and my piano teacher, who is my grandmother, would never let me look at my hands playing the piano. And that worked for me for typing too. So I was able to type faster than a lot of people in my class because I didn't have to look at it. I could look at the words and just go at it. So
yeah, I had high school typing. I was the only guy in the all-girl class, and I took second place. I was happy about that.
Yeah, and back in the 70s, I never told anyone that I knew how to type, because some jobs they would make all the women become typists if they knew how to type, until computers came along.
Yep. It's the best thing I ever learned. So
well, learning to type got me a job at the library at UWM, typing out punch cards for the checkout on books.
Oh, okay.
Which led me to get into computer IT.
Yeah. What do you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's move into the second hour here, and I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. I'm going to start with the Wacom tablets. I don't know how many of you have Wacom tablets. It's a really handy thing. I'm going to disconnect mine. But this is it. I use a small one because I don't have that much space on my desk. I have a bigger one, but this works great. This is either goes by Bluetooth or by a cord plugged in. It's got a battery, and you have a pen, and it really is a handy item, especially for doing heavy retouching. Let me get it. I like to have it wired most of the time because I found that it can give me problems with Bluetooth. It sometimes doesn't always stay connected as well. Wacom makes probably the best tablet out there, although there's a bunch of tablets out there. Most people have a problem using them because they don't work with them often enough. Let me share this Lightroom screen. So with the tablet, once I get over to the screen that I need, come on. Okay, this tablet is just set up for the one. Let's see. What happens if I do that? That's funny. I guess I need to go into those preferences. So you have and I was going to talk about this anyhow. It's let me get it so it shows up on this screen. So this is the preference page for the tablet, and you've got the tablet, the pen, mapping. I need to change this to monitor 2, I believe, and that will make it easier. I can have it work like a pen or like a mouse. I generally work with a pen because you can tap to click and move around just by dragging. You can program it for different applications. Most of the time I'm using it in Photoshop. The pen, you do have a switch here on the pen, 2 different switches. I've got them disabled because my klutzy fingers would constantly hit them when I didn't want it, and I couldn't find a good use for it. But when I do, I can. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can do different kinds of clicks. You can do keyboard strokes, all sorts of things. So you've got a lot of control with a Wacom tablet. And like I said, it's got 2 clicks, and right now I just have the tip as a click. You can adjust the tip feel for pressure, and as I push down on it, you can see that I can control the pressure, which comes in handy when you're in Photoshop. I can double click so that if I say want to click on about, it can pop that up. So what I find is a lot of people do have problems using it, and the simplest thing to do when you get one is to put your mouse away and just use the tablet. You do that for over a month, you will find that you will get used to it and not have a problem using it. There is a little hand-eye coordination because your hand is working on this tablet and you have to look at the screen. So, but it doesn't take that long to do. Sometimes it does jump around, but. And I use, the other thing that I tend to use a lot of besides this is a trackball. I don't know how any of you guys who use mice get away with it in Photoshop. I use a trackball, which is, you know, like a mouse upside down, and that gives me a whole lot of control. But most of the time I will use my trackpad. And you can do all your adjustments here. So I can do whatever I need just by, you know, being on the pad and making my adjustments. If I want to click, I just have to click. Where it really comes in handy is doing cloning and different stuff in Photoshop. So let me get to a little different picture here. Oh. Where'd we go? Here's what I want. Let's just take this one. Come on. Some days. Didn't have my Photoshop open, so this will take a second. Okay, let's get it over here so you guys can see it. So, when you do like cloning, where'd we go? Oh, I hate when it does that. I have a problem that when my stuff shifts around, that's the one thing with this tablet. Yeah, so you should be okay. Yeah, there we go. It can sometimes get stuck on a different screen, depending on, because I have my mouse and that. You can turn on the controls. Why are you jumping over there? Oh, that's weird. Okay, there we go. Some reason it's jumping back and forth. I usually don't have this much trouble with it, but huh. Why is it going? Should be staying here. Nothing like monitor full tablet area. Mapping. Ah, that's why. See, and what can happen is the mapping can change, and what's happening is that I have it mapped to a different screen when I'm in Photoshop. And since I moved it over, because I normally work with Photoshop right in front of me, now it will work. So with this, I can, I'm in just the cloning tool. I can clone out, and if I change the pressure, it changes the softness of it. So I can do creation changes like that. Now, if I go to the clone stamp tool, and let's just make this bigger. And if I turn that on and say we click on that, and we want to put that branch in here. But I can change as the harder I push, the bigger it will go. And if I just touch lightly, it just does a smaller amount of cloning. So I'm able to change just by pressure how large or soft it is, or how big of a area up to the size of that circle. So if I make this bigger, you could see how it's smaller there, and if I push real hard, it does the whole thing. So the tool, though, and let me back up and get rid of a bunch of this stuff so I get back. What it's nice for me is cloning goes really quick. So, you know, if you wanna, with the clone stamp tool, I can just go and zip and, you know, move around really quick. And depending on how much pressure I put on, I can really clean up an image real fast. So, and once you get your hand-eye coordination, it works really well. And it's amazing how fast I can just smooth out this boulder. So,
Jeffrey, I think I'll try that to see if that resolves my cloning problem, because I do it with my mouse.
oh yeah, you can get a lot better control with your tablet with cloning.
And you know, I use the mouse to increase the intensity and the size of the tool, of the brush tool. And it's a little more difficult to do that with Wacom tablet. And so I don't typically use my Wacom tablet, but you're right. If I do that with the cloning, maybe my cloning problem will go away.
Yeah, I find you've got a lot more control with the pen, and, you know, using pressure, and the same with if you go into your brush presets, you can do quite a bit of adjustments with the different brushes. This is, I think, even here you've got the clone source stuff. There's a lot of settings that you can do. Here's the one I'm looking for. So when you pick a brush, say if I go to a brush, there's a lot of dynamic stuff that you can do with the Wacom tablet to change the shape or the scattering and turn certain things on and off. And depending on how you press, that's going to adjust it. So you've got quite a bit of control with a brush. You know, even if I just stay with a brush and paint with brown here, if I don't press down hard, no, I need to turn it on. Oh, okay, I've got it, flow is turned on, and this one I think changes the size. So if I press light, it just puts a little bit of paint on. If I press harder, it gets harder. Now I'm at 50% here. I could actually up that to 100%, and then when I paint, but if I paint real light, you can just paint lightly. So it's all with pressure. Otherwise, if you have it turned off, it just paints the one way, and you're constantly adjusting this. This one, I believe, if I press hard, it gives a little harder edge, and if I press soft, it's a smaller size. And if I press hard, it's the full size. So, and you can even do both of them so that you've got a lot of control if you just do it lightly or you do it heavy. It just can give you a lot of quick control over painting, and it's a more natural thing working with a pen than it is with a mouse. Now, I know a lot of people do it with mice. I do it a lot of times with my trackball because it does work nice for, you know, just painting a dot or, you know, drawing a line, but it's only one texture or one size or density, where with the pen, you just have a lot of very delicate control depending on how heavy you want to press. And so it can be really handy to use. The bigger tablets are a little easier because then you have less movement. With this small tablet, I mean, I've only got a 6-inch area that I move across this whole screen. But for traveling, this is a really nice sized tablet. So just thought everybody should know about this. It can speed up your workflow. I love it for cloning when I'm doing heavy cloning. It's just, you know, go somewhere. If I go to the clone tool and basically tap or, you know, draw this out, I can draw it better than I can with the mouse. And, you know, cloning out stuff just goes so much quicker, and you just have to, you know, watch it. And after a while, your eye gets used to this. And it's just amazing how well, between what the cloning tool will do, how fast you can, you know, get rid of something. So take a look at them. This one that I have here is, I believe it was $100 over at Best Buy. And it's portable. It's got a battery built in. I think it was, at least when I bought it, I think it was $100. Who knows what they're gone up to today. But they have 3 or 4 different sizes. So depending on how big of a size you want, you know, it works well. It does have a bunch of buttons here that you can change things. I don't generally use the buttons too much. I use the keyboard shortcuts for that, but you could actually program the buttons in to do different things. Talking about buttons, let me close this off. Anybody has questions on this?
I don't want to sound like a contrarian, but I prefer the mouse. I have gone through 2 different times of going more than 30 days and only using the tablet. I think I'm the only photographer in the world, though, that says, I know of one other photographer that prefers the mouse. So I don't want to discourage anyone from trying it, but personally, I've gone back to the mouse every time.
Well, I know a lot of people that use mice. I actually can't understand how you can do it. You're constantly having to lift the mouse up and move it because I don't have enough desk space for it. So but I know a lot of people who do it. I know a lot of people that like to do it on the trackpad on the laptop. And I can't imagine anybody doing fine work on the trackpad on a laptop computer. It's great for little stuff, but not for a whole lot. So everybody has their own. I know it's a steep learning curve, that you need to work with it. The best thing I've always heard is put your mouse away for a month and work with it for a month, and then you'll get used to it.
Yeah, I
But
have twice.
yeah, and if it doesn't work for you, I understand. You know, it's for some people, not everybody. Yeah, Ellen.
Yep. I was just going to say I'm on the website because I had this conversation yesterday with my brother. He uses the large one. And on the Wacom website, the large is $499.95. The
Right.
medium is $379.95 and the small is $249.95. Now that's
okay.
the Wacom Intuos Pro. So there are other ones out there, but he has the
Yeah.
large one. He swears by it, will not use anything else. And he is very much into Photoshop and has done a lot of graphics with easily 18, 20, 27, 30 layers. And that's all he uses. And because I was talking to him, I said, well, you like it? And he gave me a side eye, honest to God. And so that's why I was very interested in this, because I am thinking of getting one and using him as my sort of person to tell me, you know, what I need and what I don't need and so on. But he's one who will swear by it.
Yeah.
And has been using it for years. So
And
it's
they
a personal
do have
thing.
Yeah, it is a personal thing, and some people like it, some don't. Wacom does have a nice one that's an actual monitor, so that you can actually draw on it like a monitor. And I think that one right now they have the Cintiqs, which are real expensive, but they have an inexpensive one for around $500 or $600 that you can actually use it as a monitor and draw on it, so you can actually see what you're doing as you draw right on it. I'm tempted to get one of those, other than I've sort of used up all my monitor space, so I'm not sure how well it would work. But it is easier if you could draw right on the monitor. But these pads, and I'm using, this one is just, it's their real basic, Intuos Bluetooth one. I don't, all my stuff, we got one comment that sometimes the Bluetooth mouse and keyboard interferes with the pad. I don't use a Bluetooth mouse or keyboard. I use I like everything wired, because I find Bluetooth just has too many problems, and then batteries die at the most inopportune time. So but that can be a whole nother discussion. And it's the same. I actually like my trackball. For me, that works so easy. I've got one finger that can control it, and it doesn't move. I don't have to move it anywhere on my desk. But again, there are people that can't stand trackballs. So, yep. So we each have our own favorite thing. So it's sort of interesting.
But most people are in agreement about the Wacom tablet. Everyone seems to like it, except for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, it's a steep learning curve, but yeah, for certain, I gotta say, I don't use it all the time. I use my trackball most of the time, but when it comes to certain things, drawing certain stuff, the Wacom tablet works easier than a mouse or a trackball does. So, or at least quicker. So, so that's the Wacom tablet. Now let me, because I was going to try to show this physically, but I couldn't. But the next thing I wanted to talk about is called a Stream Deck. And what this is a push button system. It's actually 5 buttons across and 3 down. They actually make 3 of them. One that's 9 button, 15 button, and they have their big one that has a lot of buttons on it. What's nice is you can program it to work with each different program that you have. So I use it for Photoshop, Lightroom, InDesign, Premiere. Actually, I got one for Final Cut Pro, but it's on another page. So I have a whole second page with more stuff. So I can show it easier by showing the configuration page, because it's basically the same thing. So this is my Stream Deck. Right now I have it set for Zoom stuff, so I can raise and lower people's hands. I can mute all audio, start and stop the screen sharing and such. And these are all keyboard shortcuts. So if I click on this, down here, it's just a hotkey, and I can say what it is. And then this is the hotkey shortcut for starting and stopping screen share. So you just type in that hotkey. And what's nice is it has a ton of different things. This is the one section that you use the most, but it does have all sorts of other sections for controlling your computer, doing, I see they've added now keynote stuff, app switchers. There's a lot of things, anything you can do basically with a keystroke. So if I go up, here's my main one. So if I go into Photoshop, this launches Photoshop. This backs me up. I can make duplicate layers, get to the different brushes. So I don't have to remember my keyboard shortcuts, or ones that I don't tend to use as much. I can just use the Stream Deck. And it's basically a push button thing. You can create these custom templates or screens, because they're just little screens. Actually, it's one big screen, and they figured out how to make it little. But it is really handy for getting to different programs. This for me gets me to Squarespace, opens up QuickTime. This gets me to the PSA website. This goes into Keynote, GarageBand. Then I was running out of spaces, so I saved 1 or 2 spaces for something special. But if I go right now, my second page just has Final Cut, and this launches Final Cut Pro, and this does my editing. So far, I haven't needed a lot of other editing buttons, but I can keep adding buttons to it. So it's a small unit, doesn't take up a lot of space. They're not real expensive. My mind's gone blank. I think it was $150. I've actually got it on 3 different computers so that I can reach over. What I sort of like it for a lot is Keynote works well, that I can go forward, backwards, play a movie, go to the end of the deck. I've got a lot of the different stuff, and all I have to do is hit a button, and it gets me there. So sometimes you may see me reaching over, but it's right in arm's width away. I've got it standing up on a stand like I show in the picture there. And was used mainly for gamers and streamers, people that are going to stream stuff. But you've got a lot of different things, like here's for Zoom. You've got all these different things that you can adjust. Here
I have a question, Jeffrey. If
Yeah.
you're using that and you, for example, click on the Lightroom button, does it go to the sub menu for the things that you've saved that you commonly do in Lightroom and have a whole nother set of buttons?
Yeah. So if I
That's
go
cool.
here is if I want to edit in Photoshop, I just have to hit this button. If I want to do an HDR merge, I just have the 3 images selected and I hit the HDR button. Here's for panos. If I want to delete and reject, instead of using the X key, I can do it here. I can make a virtual copy. Here's my adjustment tools. And then I use this because I like it, is the, I can label the images, the different colors. And this changes the crop overlay, which is really nice. So, and if, you've only get 15 buttons, so you got to pick and choose some of them, but you can create another page. So I could take this out and create a second page that it could go into more buttons, or you just get the bigger Stream Deck.
So Jeff, that's 15 buttons per, like, in this case, you chose Lightroom, or if you chose Zoom, or so each individual function is going to give you 15 buttons that you can program for that function. Okay.
Yeah, actually 14 buttons, because you have one button taken up for going back.
Yeah.
But it can speed up a lot of stuff. And I use it like during these meetings. I'm usually on Zoom. But if I want to get to the Wacom uploader that I constantly have to do, I can just hit my Stream Deck button and it gets me right there. So I program, this page for the different programs I use and for different websites I want to get to. And as I need more, I got this second page that I can just pop to pretty easy. You can save the layout, which is sort of nice. Here's the preference section, and you can tell it, you can change the brightness, and there's a screensaver that pops up after an hour. You can check, but you've got different accounts. But here you got profiles. So I created, this is the main profile, and you can save that profile. So in case something would happen to the computer, you save it in another spot. If I needed, for my ATEM switcher, where I do a lot of my switching for video, I've got a separate profile that I can switch to, and that then lets me control the ATEM. Generally, I don't need to do that. Actually, I do that more on my other computer, because I've got that going there. So it's really handy, and you can create multiple profiles and just switch between them too. So, you could have one whole profile just set for Photoshop, and then if you needed, switch to another whole profile and have as many pages profiles as you want as well. So I just find one is good enough, but you could do more. So it's a handy little device and not super expensive, and lets you get things done a little bit quicker, or you can, and there's a lot of different things you can do with this. There's other programs. One company has a program called Companion that will let you do other things physically with it, and do more than just keyboard shortcuts with it. So there's a lot of different ways to control other devices with this thing. So thought it was time for a show and tell instead of a same old boring thing. Yeah, Tony.
I have Dell computers, laptops and things. And
yep.
There's a program called Dell Dock for anyone who has Dell computers. And it only works on Dells. It will not work on my Alienware laptop, which is made by Dell.
Yeah.
But so it goes, I have it down at the bottom of my screen, and it's a one-click thing to open up a program.
Sure.
So I don't have the icons scattered over my screen, or I don't have to go down into the windows and open up, the window that shows all the tabs, everything. So it's basically what you have, to launch a program or something, but it's for Dell computers. And like I said, it's Dell Dock. You have to look it up, and it's free.
Yeah, and I know there's with Windows, you have that Windows Dock to do quite a bit of this stuff, but you got to open up separate. This is what's nice is a separate unit. I mean, I do have the dock at the bottom of my screen. Apple has a dock that will let you do quite a bit, put all the programs that you want to open up there. But sometimes I just find it easier that if I want Photoshop, I just hit my Photoshop button on this unit and it gets it open.
Yeah. Well, in the Dell Dock, the programs are not open. They're just a one-click shortcut.
Yeah.
So they're just, and it stays down there at the bottom of.
Sure.
Yeah. And I have it set to keep on top, or so I can access anything.
Yeah, I have, for Apple, I've got mine at the bottom here, and I can open all my programs. And a lot of times I will use it for that and not use the Stream Deck. More I use the Stream Deck for all the other shortcuts that I want to use. And to open up websites. For websites that I'm constantly going to, I picked 3 that I use the most, and I should actually add the Wacom website because although generally I'm using Squarespace, so I just go to my Squarespace site and it has all 4 websites that I work with. So I've got those there because it just gets me a little quicker way to get to some of those websites. And I'll probably plug in a few more. I'm going to start filling up page 2 one of these days, but one page is sort of the main ones that I want to use. So that's all I really had to talk about. I could show one other toy that I like while I'm here. I don't know. I've gotten big into labelers. Let me stop my screen share here. Okay, good. I use a labeler made by Brother called P-Touch. This one's a little more expensive of a labeler, but it creates nice size labels. I've got a few of them here. These are 3/4 inches wide. I label a lot of my stuff, like my batteries and stuff, with my name, because if I'm out on a trip, and sometimes Ken and I are swapping batteries and we want to sort of keep them the same. But this little labeler works off of your phone, and it's got a lot of different colored labels, type labels. It's a little more expensive, but you've got inside here is just a regular cartridge that you can change to any size label up to 3/4 of an inch. I happen to like the yellow ones for doing labeling of cables. Works really nice, and it actually has a bunch of templates for cable labels. I'm starting to label everything these days because I've got such a mass of cables and stuff, and it's sort of getting hard to remember what goes to where. I got this ATEM switcher that has 4 inputs, and I know pretty much which ones are where, but sometimes I'm switching one out for a different one, so I'm starting to label all that stuff. And this thing just works really nice. It's battery operated. and you just connect it to your phone by Bluetooth, and you got the keyboard on the phone to be able to make up whatever kind of label you want. I'm really, maybe it's because my memory is getting worse. I'm trying to remember what goes where, but I'm starting to label drawers and different things with, here I'm putting all this stuff in there. All my bins are labeled on the side here with that labeler.
Jeffrey,
So
do you have a
it's-
link, an Amazon link for that, or is it a brother?
It is a brother, yeah.
Yeah, it's made by Brother, and it's called the P-Touch Cube Plus.
I've got one too, Jeff, and you're right. I love it. I mean, it pairs so easily. They've got a great companion app that you have to download, but it's just a really easy system to use.
I mean, it's not, you can buy some cheaper ones, the ones that have the keyboard all built in, but this was recommended to me by one guy, and I thought, I don't want to spend that kind of money because I think it's over $100. And I can't look because I've got I got to get a second web browser going.
I see one on Amazon. There's one that says Brother P-Touch Cube Smartphone Label Maker. It's $59.99, but another one that's $98.99.
Yeah, I think this is the more expensive one, and I think it does wider tape. I think is the big thing, because this is the P-Touch Cube Plus. So there is the Cube as well.
Yeah, I started labeling my batteries with the year I bought them for my Canon.
Yep. And
I had one when I was working, and now I'm not working anymore. So.
Yeah, and I had the smaller ones, and they worked fine, but they were only a 1/4 inch label, and I didn't like that. I wanted wider labels, and this did a wider label, and it has a few more fancier templates and such. But yeah, I do the same thing. I label my batteries with my name, and I'm running into a problem, and some batteries work in some cameras and don't work in others. So I've got it labeled that this battery won't work in my new Z7 II, but it will work in all the rest. So for some reason, I've got certain batteries that just decide not to work in the brand new Z7 II, but work in all the other cameras just fine. So I've started labeling them not for this, because I do have about 10 different batteries, because I have 4 different cameras that I run.
Does this one do the narrow print too? You said that it does the larger.
Yeah, you can get all sorts of different size tape for this. So I get the 3/4 inch, I get some 1/2 inch. I don't think I have any 1/4 inch stuff because I don't generally print that small, but I believe it goes to 3/4 inch.
Jeff, I have a question.
Sure.
Could you show me one of the labels you made for a cord? And where do you attach it, to the thin cord or to the base that gets plugged in, or what? Because I have the same problem with all these cords.
Yeah, I attach it to the cord, just on the cord itself.
The skinny part?
Yeah, on the skinnier part. Let me see if I can get this. I can probably try to pop one out here. Like I said, it doesn't take that long to do. The biggest trick is it doesn't connect up automatically. So I have to.
You have to go in your Bluetooth settings and connect to it each time, but unlike a lot of other Bluetooth items where it basically stays connected all the time, this you have to reconnect when you are going to use it. But once you connect it, it stays connected pretty much till you shut it off again.
Yeah, right. So if I print this one, let's see, gotta get the right size. Oh, which one is this one? That's the 18 millimeter. 7. I don't want that one. Let's do app size. Oops, that's 0.2 inches. Yeah. Let's go there. 1.5 inches. All right. Seems that not as easy as there we go. So that's sort you can, this is the app, and it's, I've got it printing now, a label. This is just one, and what they do, let's see, can it, this is sort of tricky. I don't know if it's going to focus in on it. It's focusing in on my eyes, but it creates a little line, and it just says PC1 on it. So you can just take that, and you can make these as long as you want. You just peel off the back paper, and then you can wrap it right around the cable.
Oh,
And you'd want to wrap it around the thin part of the cable, you know, right after the connector part.
oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
it
That's
really
a good
makes it,
project for me.
yeah, it's really nice because you can put it on both ends of that cable, and so you know where it's connected up, and you've got enough space here that you can really say whatever that item is,
Yeah.
and it
The
works out.
label was in focus when you had it near your face.
Okay, yeah,
And
that's.
the labels
But then you
are,
can't really.
vinyl.
I don't know how well you could read it this far back.
Put it by your
But-
eyes. Put it by your glasses.
Yeah. See, it's because the camera's focusing on my eyes. So,
The labels are a vinyl material, so they're weatherproof and everything. So it's really nice. It's not like the lettering is going to wear off or anything like that. It's pretty.
right.
It's a heat thermal infused printing.
Yeah, that's good
So-
because I have made labels, paper labels that I wrote and put Scotch tape on it, and a year or two later they fall off.
Right. Yeah. These really, with this machine, these labels really stick well and they don't deteriorate. I've have others from a different company that does a smaller one, and I have them peeling off periodically. And on cables, they work well. Yeah, this stuff is really tough. It's a heat type printing, so it does work well. And I've just gotten, I used to use a Dymo labeler with the paper labels, like for address labels and that. But I found that if those get wet, and actually I got like a hard drive, and I still do it on some hard drives. You could see I use, that's a Dymo labeler. It's a address label, and those work, but it doesn't last as long. And you know, if you're not moving this around, it's fine. These yellow ones tend to hold up a lot better. But so something else.
I bought mine originally to label my drone with, so they haven't come off in midair with
Yeah.
the prop washed, so they're pretty hardy.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to put
So-
the registration number on there, don't you, Marty?
Yep, that's correct.
I'm about to order from when I get my drone.
So any other questions? That's all the stuff that I've got in easy reach. to show. I have added some new lights. I'll have to, one of these days I'll demonstrate. I found some lights that are pretty nice. They're made by Neewer, Neewer. They were about $86, and they're about 12 by 18 inches in size with a nice white panel. And it comes with a remote control that I can change the color, temperature, and the brightness. Now, the one I've got on right now is set at 35%, and I can turn it off, and you can see how much it's changed my picture. And when I turn it back on, once the camera readjusts, I'm actually thinking of getting, because right now I'm using, on one side, a couple of light bulbs shining against the reflector. And I've got this panel up on this side. And I think I'm going to get the same panel and put it on the other side. And I can, change the temperature of it, change the brightness of it. So if I want to make it brighter, I can keep going brighter. Right now I'm at about almost 50%. And the camera's adjusting automatically, so it's probably bringing down everything else.
It didn't wash out when it did that, so yeah.
No, it's just changing my ISO because I've got it on auto ISO. But the hard part when it's at 50% for me is it starts to get a little bit bright. And if I would go to 100%,
you'd have to put your sunglasses on, huh?
Yeah, these glasses won't go dark, but my regular glasses are already starting to go dark. So it gets a little too bright for me, but it's really nice. I was able to drop the ISO on the camera quite a bit so that I wasn't running at too high of an ISO, so I got a little better picture. And actually, with one light on this side and somewhat fill light on the other side, it's not a bad lighting situation for me. So that Neewer is really it's a pretty decent panel, and it comes as runs by AC, but you can also put in Sony batteries, and it can be powered by battery as well. So I've gotten a bunch of new little toys just because I needed better lighting panels, and this is such a nice big panel. It'll be nice that when I need to do other video stuff and I needed a bigger, broader panel that's soft and light. So I don't know, I can sing and dance for 7 minutes. That'll get rid of everybody real quick. Anybody have any other questions?
Lunch.
Am I starting to burp?
I think it's lunchtime, Jeff. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to end just a few minutes early today, but
well, it was a lot of good information you gave us today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Over and out.
No problem. Thank you, everybody, for showing up today. We started out with quite a few people, and worked out pretty well for a hot July day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll see what I come up with for next month, and
we have
once
a
we get
meeting
into
coming
fall,
up.
we have a camera club meeting and a Wacom meeting coming up soon. So
Yeah.
But we'll try. I'm hoping to start bringing in some speakers this fall when we start getting more people again. So we'll see what we can do for getting some people in. But so far, so good. Glad to see everybody. Have a good summer. Hope you get maybe the EAA or whatever is coming up next in around here. So
Thank you, Jeff.
See you all.
thank you. Take
Jeff will be
care.
in touch.
Okay, sounds good.